Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 547 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. And tonight we are doing our short topics episode. It's a week late, so we do apologize for that, but we do hope you'll stick around and listen. We do have several interesting topics to go through for tonight. Since we had a little bit of a hiatus, I was able to dig around and find some stories, even though, surprisingly, there just doesn't seem to be a lot going on right now. But there are some things of interest, and this first topic is going to be a lead topic, and we don't have lead topics very much. But before we get into our lead topics, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
All right, so I'm going to let you hit the first one because everybody probably knows this already. But if you're one of the two people who doesn't already know, then I guess you're going to find out.
Right, if you haven't been checking that status page lately, the ARRL Logbook of the World returns to service. Yay, fanfare. Yes, Logbook of the World has been offline as a part of a system service disruption. That's a very nice way to say that. As work progressed on the network, some users encountered Logbook of the World opening briefly, during which some 6,600 logs were uploaded. The logs were not processed until this weekend as we tested that the interfaces to Logbook of the World were functioning properly. We have implemented a process to reject logs with excessive duplicates. Please do not upload your entire log to ensure your contacts are in Logbook of the World, as they will be rejected. We need some commas in this statement from them. Through the end of the year, you may experience planned times, or unplanned, when Logbook of the World will be unavailable. We have been using this time to evaluate operational and infrastructure improvements we would like to make to Logbook of the World. Those times will be announced. This is so bad. This really came from them.
It really came from them. I don't think I did much editing, so I think this is pretty much straight copy. Yeah.
We appreciate your patience as we work through the challenges of writing sentences and keeping Logbook of the World from returning to service. Keeping Logbook of the World from returning to service. Interesting. That's not what you want to do, but okay. We know the importance of
past tense as we worked through the challenges.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm so confused. This structure is horrible. We know the importance of Logbook of the World to our members and to the tens of thousands of Logbook of the World users who are not ARRL members. The Logbook of the World, just behind QST, is our second most popular ARRL benefit. And of course, this came straight from the horse's mouth at the Amateur Radio Relay League. And yes, we should all be happy that whoever's writing these press releases is hopefully not in charge of actually fixing the problems.
Well, they might be, which might explain a lot.
Yeah. And if they are, oh my gosh.
I will apologize in advance for this first part of the show being particularly ARRL heavy, but when it comes to ham radio topics, we're pretty much the only people in the game this past couple weeks. So anyway, moving on from Logbook of the World, which now everybody's informed. Those two people who didn't already know, they know now. So we're going to move into some amateur radio topics, more amateur radio topics. The National Traffic System Performance Analysis Tool is in development. An early project of the National Traffic System 2.0 team was to create a snapshot of the then current system performance by originating test traffic from more than 150 recipients throughout the entire United States. Key takeaways from that initial exercise included 1. System-wide, there was plenty of room for improvement in how quickly and how accurately messages get from origin to destination. And 2, to improve the quality of our post-exercise summaries, we need tools that make it easy for all who are involved in any aspect of a traffic exercise to report, collect, and analyze results. Wow, that was a long sentence. Yeah, they need some copywriters. Where did I leave off?
In response.
In response to the first bullet above, we are developing new training materials as well as pursuing other vehicles for raising awareness of the need to improve our system performance. See, for instance, Do Your Part by W2RU in the May NTS letter. To improve the value of the test exercises themselves, we need new tools to simplify the reporting process for all participants and to more quickly generate output summaries of value to net managers, STMs, HQ, and all other stakeholders, including all participants. Why didn't they just say all participants in the first place? Could have, but then we wouldn't have copy to read. To that end, we presently have under development a web-based performance analysis tool, PAT, to fill the current void, not to be confused with the PAT that is a WinLink client. That is a way to pass traffic. And as soon as we can, we'll be announcing a small exercise, perhaps as early as this fall, specifically intended to test the new tool. Very good. National, have you ever sent or received? Have you gotten a radiogram from the NTS?
Yes, I have. I was kind of wondering. I mean, it sounds like you haven't.
I have not. I have listened to nets where traffic has been passed, but I have never sent or received any.
Yeah, I have received multiple for sure. Over the years, I've never sent one. I'd really like to know. I mean, this would be a great feedback question and answer, maybe even to our chat room. But like, I realize that we're on a weird night recording and we don't have as many people here joining. So maybe the listeners can respond in whether or not they have used NTS and what they actually think about it. I'm sort of ambiguous about it, and I don't really have an opinion, but I always find it weird anytime I actually receive one.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if I were to ever receive one. Joel, KC0YEW in the chat says he has initiated some through his Elmer, K2HT. So he sent some. That's
cool. I've had people ask us at the National Jamboree to do NTS stuff, and I normally refuse just because like that's not the purpose we're there for. But I know some people are adamant about this being a critical portion of amateur radio. So yeah, I'm just kind of interested. I mean, maybe I'm just completely off my kilter on the whole thing, but I just like to. Really haven't had a good primer and understanding of what problem it's trying to solve in today's world.
Yeah, fair enough. And just to add 30 seconds of irrelevant content, I still get annoyed whenever I'm listening to 2 meter nets and people go, this is blah, blah, call sign, blah, blah, no traffic.
No traffic.
And I understand what they mean, and I understand that they don't understand that they're saying the wrong thing. It would just be nice if people would use no comment instead of no traffic. Unless they really mean no traffic, but I mean, no one means that because no one passes traffic. So, yeah, stupid of me to get annoyed by such things, but I still do.
Yeah, this could be just the curmudgeon in me.
Old man yelling at clouds. Yeah, that's
get off my lawn.
Anyway, so moving on, another story from the ARRL, and then I promise we'll get away from the ARRL. So go for it.
Yeah, this is gaming the amateur radio bands, and I actually did read this article and watch the video. Have you ever played poker over FT8? YouTuber Steve McGrain, KM9G, and his friends at the YouTube Coffee or Channel Coffee and Ham Radios do. They even live stream it monthly on the channel Frequency Frenzy. Wow, too many buzzwords. They've devised a system of automatically assigning values to QSO data from an amateur radio digital mode contacts that corresponds with playing cards. The www.frequencyfrenzy.live website uses the contest rules to display each participant's poker hand. They run the event as sprint contest. Often they are each in the same room together as they operate and play poker. Quote, one of the things we had chosen FT8 for was that we could have the camaraderie and bring us together as a group, end quote, says McGrain. The possibilities don't end at poker. Since their contest rules just assign values from the QSOs, many games could be incorporated into the activity. Bingo is in development. It's not just fun and games. It's meant to engage people who otherwise may not be interested in amateur radio contesting by visualizing the real-time contest standings through the game. McGrain says recording the points data in real time is an important aspect of modern contesting. Quote, I've done a state QSO party, and you don't know what the results are, whether you won, whether you placed, where you placed for sometimes a month, end quote. With many digital natives accustomed to instant gratification, the gamification schemes make radio contesting appealing to a younger generation. And this is from our good friends at the ARRL. And yeah, just because it's on a computer doesn't mean it's for a younger generation. Thank you. Goodbye. Click, click.
Fair enough. I think they mean the poker appeals to a younger generation. But you know what? Yeah, there's lots of old people who play poker too.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. I would love to play a game of chess this way. There are some people, like back in the day, people would play chess like by mail, like you'd mail each other your moves.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it would take a really long time to play a game of chess, but it would still be interesting. But I think it could really lend itself to playing a game of chess.
Yeah. I think like JS8 call or something like that, maybe with a little bit more character space. You could do that with moves and initiate games and stuff like that. Because you would definitely need probably more characters than FT8 has natively in a single pass.
Not necessarily, because there's a move dialect in chess. Like if your pawn is like on E3 and you're moving to E5, all you have to say is E5 because that's the only move it can reference. So I think the bandwidth or the field spacing is adequate for chess without modification.
Interesting. Well, there you go. There's something for you to develop.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, that sounds fun.
And Joel says might be fun to play via the national traffic system.
Yeah. Let me send a radiogram and wait a month or two, and then you can send me one back.
It depending on how many people actually pass the traffic, it might actually be faster than snail mail, but maybe not. All right. So anyway, moving on from amateur radio topics, let's get into some open source. And this one came to me today because I spent my whole day at work dealing with it. So I figured I would mention it. And this is what you need to know about regression. And regression is a bug that was reintroduced to the OpenSSL and OpenSSH server stack because it was fixed and then they unfixed it. So the Qualys Threat Research Unit, TRUE, can't even like screw with that one because it's just readable, discovered this unauthenticated remote control execution, or Ricky, there we go, vulnerability in OpenSSH servers, glib-based or on glib-based Linux systems. The bug marks the first OpenSSH vulnerability in nearly 2 decades. An unauthenticated Ricky that grants full root access. Oh, no, terrible. It affects the default configuration and does not require user interaction, posing a significant exploit risk. In Qualys TRUE's analysis, we identified that this vulnerability is a regression of the previously patched vulnerability, CVE 2006-5051. So this was fixed for 18 years and then unfixed. A regression in this context means that a flaw, once fixed, has reappeared in a subsequent software release, typically due to changes or updates that inadvertently reintroduce the issue. This incident highlights the crucial role of thorough regression testing to prevent the reintroduction of known vulnerabilities into the environment. This regression was introduced in October 2020 in 8.5p1 of OpenSSH. Versions earlier than 4.4p1 are vulnerable. That's when they fixed it the first time. And then 4.4p1 up to, but not including 8.5p1 were patched. So if you're running one of those versions, you're okay. And then they unpatched it in 8.5p1, and it's broken all the way up to 9.8p1 not inclusive, due to an accidental removal of a critical component in a function. Yeah, so I've been around fixing stuff. Luckily, quite a few of our VMs are running slightly older software, so they're not vulnerable, but we did have several that were. And considering this is a root access bug, obviously we needed to jump on it and stomp it quickly. So if you're running OpenSSH, it would behoove you to check your version, make sure it's before 4.4p1 or after 9.8p1. Or, yeah, something like that. You figure it out from the text. No. Between 4.4p1 and 8.5p0, I guess, or 8.4p1, I guess would be the one before that. Those are fine. Anything before 4.4 or after 8.5, not including the patch version, which is 9.8, do something about it. I think all the major distributions have already patched it and released the patches, so it's just a dist upgrade or whatever, what have you, for your system. So, but it's out there, and don't get rooted.
Yeah, I just ran an upgrade on mine, and I noticed it was 9.6p1.
Oh, you are vulnerable.
But it just patched like right now too.
Oh, well, there you go. Now you're not.
So it's not what they say, not inclusive or something. I don't know. Anyway, who knows? I could be wrong. I could be vulnerable. Come root my system, please.
I think
take it out.
The thing is, the patched systems on Debian that I patched are like 9.1, I think. 9.1p1 or 9.2p1, but there is a patch version because the SSL library went from Debian 12up2 to 12up3. The version didn't change, but the patch is there. So you have to be a little careful with the numbers.
So it was patched. So the OpenSSL is what got patched?
No, it was the OpenSSH server.
Oh, okay.
But the patch, the Debian uses two numbers. It's the version of OpenSSH and then their patch revision. So,
okay. Yeah. So this is P1-1 that I have now, and it was just P1. So 9.6 P1. So now it's 9.6 P1-1.
Yeah, Debian does something different, but it's like Debian 12u P1, P2, which were both vulnerable, and then P3 was patched. So
yes. So you could have rooted me right before we finished this conversation.
Oh well. I guess you're safe now. So
whew, I feel so relieved. So relieved. I actually I get to go into a place tomorrow that has been ransomwared. So that'll be my exciting delve into cootie land for computers.
Sounds like fun. Hope they have good backup.
I don't think they do. This is not what they promised me when I was doing some side work for them. So I'm going to go in and see exactly what pieces I can pick up from my stuff. I know the entire infrastructure is a bit broken. So yeah. This is a good lesson for you people. Back your stuff up and don't trust monster IT departments. There you go, because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and don't trust the people who develop software to not break something they've already fixed. Yeah. So yeah, I gotta figure all that out tomorrow. That'll be fun. I'm glad it's not my normal gig. So it's like I logged on this morning and I was like, I can't log on to my email. That's kind of weird. Let me try connecting to the VPN. I can't connect to the VPN either. What's this email from corporate IT? I was like, oh, that doesn't look good. So, yeah. Oh, boy.
And then I got the call this afternoon. Hey, so if we're offline for, let's say, I don't know, a few weeks, what can we do in the automation side of our system? And I'm like, I don't know. We haven't done manual stuff in 15 years there, so I can't really say. We'd have to sit down and talk about how we do stuff the old-fashioned way. So yeah, yeah. Well, patch your system, people. Don't let garbage emails and crap like that take over your system.
Yeah, for no doubt, especially if you rely on them, which most people do. So
this is why I don't even keep my work computers at home. So It's like, I don't want them on my network at all. I don't trust them. They're such high vulnerability targets or vector targets.
Yeah, for sure. Luckily, all of the systems on my network that were vulnerable are already firewalled at the gateway. So
Nice.
they can't even get past there, but still going to be patched. So,
Yeah. Cooties.
all right. What's
cooties.
this thing about blue screens?
Blue screen of death. Yeah, apparently Linux now has a blue screen of death. I've seen the articles and stuff like that, but I don't know where it's at. So let's read about it here. So after being talked about for years of DRM panic handling and coming with a quote blue screen of death solution for DRM KMS drivers, Linux 6.10 is introducing a new DRM panic handler infrastructure for being able to display a message when a panic occurs. This is especially important for those building a kernel without VTFBcon support. No idea what that means. Where otherwise viewing the kernel panic message isn't otherwise easily available. The Linux 6.10, the initial DRM panic code has landed, as well as wiring up the DRM KMS driver support for the simple DRM, MGAG 200, IMX, and AST drivers. There is work underway on extending DRM panic support to other drivers that we'll likely see over the coming kernel cycles for more widespread support. For those curious what DRM panic can look like in action, Red Hat engineer Javier Martinez Canillas shared a photo on the DRM panic blue screen of death in action. It's simple and to the point. It could be extended to the future, with some operating systems having looked at QR codes for kernel error messages and other efforts for presenting more technical information while still being user-friendly. On Linux 6.10 Plus, with platforms having DRM panic support, this blue screen of death functionality can be tested via a route such as echo C out proc/proc/sysrq-trigger. And this came to us from Foronix.
And just to jump back real quick, VT/FBcon, virtual terminals, or frame buffer consoles.
Sweet.
So for those people who don't know what that means, now you know what that means. I haven't tried. I don't know that I am running anything with 6.10 yet. I know the Nobara box I just built is running 6.9.
Yeah, I think I'm running 6.8 here, I think, or 6.9.
And Joel says, couldn't it at least be some other color?
Yeah.
The chartreuse screen of death.
Yeah, I think they talked about like the black screen of death and stuff like that when this was being mentioned a few times, but who knows? As long as they don't put a QR code on it like they do with Windows, it'll be fine.
As long as it doesn't say, oh, snap.
Oh, snap.
So, all right. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic, which sounds kind of interesting. Linux runs on Google Drive. When it comes to Linux, we get to see some really cool and sometimes quirky projects. Red Hannah Montana Linux. Yeah, we've talked about that one in the past. To try to show off what's possible, and that's not a bad thing. One such quirky undertaking has recently surfaced, which sees a sophomore trying to one-up their friend who had booted Linux off NFS. With their work, they have been able to run Arch Linux on Google Drive. The brainchild of Ursai, a student at Purdue University, and his team, they started by taking the help of file system and user space, Fuse, that allows non-privileged users to create file systems without the need to edit the kernel code. Thereafter, they got Fuse programs installed in the Linux kernel's initramfs, while enabling networking. Draycut helped with those, and chose Arch Linux to build on top of, testing it on a local S3 bucket. Then they moved to implement an existing project that allows for running Fuse with Google Drive into their Arch Linux build, made many fixes along the way, and mounted the drive. After many rsync runs, a successful pairing of Linux and Google Drive was achieved. See the link in the show notes for references to other resources and how to try this for yourself if you want to run Linux on Google Drive. Sounds like a cool thing to try. I don't think it's particularly useful, but it can be done. And this came from It's Foss. Weird things you can do with Linux. I guess the previous hotness was running it on a what's the NES thing? The
Switch.
Yeah, the Switch. Yeah, Nintendo Switch. So, well, now you can run it off NFS, and now you can run it off Google Drive. So crazy. Pretty soon you'll be able to run it off a wet noodle. But there you go, Linux on Google Drive. And with that, we're going to slide into Linux in the Ham Shack topics. And we actually have a couple of those this time around. So, Bill, what's new with AllStar Link?
So what we got here is AllStar Link announces version 3. AllStar Link is proud to announce ASL3, the next generation of AllStar repeater and hotspot software. ASL3 is built to run on Asterisk 20, the latest operating systems, and modern hardware. Asterisk 20 brings over 15 years of bug fixes, security improvements, and enhancements. Naturally, ASL3 benefits significantly from running on Asterisk 20, but we didn't stop there. ASL3 is easy to install and to use thanks to a new fully functional Raspberry Pi image. To get started, check out the Raspberry Pi installation video. Links in the show notes. Debian 12 AMD 64 ASL3 installation is via apt updates. See the new manual, also in the show notes. Final but important notes, ASL3 configuration is significantly different, particularly for those who edit the configs. Both veteran and new All-Star users alike are advised to proceed with caution. Read the manual and follow the installation video.
Well, I can't use ASL3, at least not the way I'm doing it, because I'm using an application called HamVoip, which is like a packaged spin sort of AllStar Link that incorporates a bunch of other functionality. I will probably have to wait until HamVoip starts using ASL3 before I can do it, because I'm not going to reinvent that wheel. Interesting to see. I'm assuming that it's going to be compatible with existing ASL installations and whatnot. So hopefully I'll get a chance to try it sometime and run it on my my two ASL hotspots. We'll see how that goes. So I don't know if the HamVoip people are working on it, but hopefully they are.
Yeah, interesting.
So, yeah, I thought so. And plus we needed content, so there you go. Yeah, plus it is Linux in the Ham Shack, because you can link to AllStar Link, and I even link it to DMR and to Echo Link and a bunch of other stuff. So you can even link it to that other mode that I won't mention. Finally, to flesh out the show, I guess, I took a brief look at Nobara Linux, specifically Nobara 39, because that's the version that's currently released. And what they say about themselves is the Nobara project is a modified version of Fedora with user-friendly fixes added to it. Fedora is a very good workstation OS. However, anything involving any kind of third-party or proprietary packages is usually absent from a fresh install. A typical point-and-click user can often struggle with how to get a lot of things working beyond the basic browser and Office documents that come with the OS without having to take extra time to search documentation. Some of the important things that are missing from Fedora, especially with regards to gaming, include Wine dependencies, third-party codec packages, such as those for GStreamer, third-party drivers, such as NVIDIA drivers, and even small package fixes here and there. This project aims to fix most of the issues and offer a better gaming, streaming, and content creation experience out of the box. More importantly, we want to be more point-and-click friendly and avoid the basic user from having to open the terminal. It's not that the terminal and or terminal usage are a bad thing by any means. Power users are more than welcome to continue with using the terminal, but for new users, point-and-click ease of use is usually expected. I used all my fancy new tools to iVentoy/Pixie boot the Nobara 39 KDE Plasma Edition onto my Proxmox server. So all my flashy new gadgets. It runs really good. Of course, with all the KDE Plasma compositing and stuff, it doesn't lend itself to the no VNC connection by which I viewed the console on the box. You know, it doesn't have acceleration and all that kind of stuff, but it worked pretty well. The installation procedure follows KDE's installation procedure pretty closely. So if you've seen, did I say KDE? I meant Fedora. I feel like I said KDE.
You said KDE a few times, yeah.
Well, I think sometimes I meant them, but that time I meant Fedora.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it follows the Fedora installation procedure pretty well, especially if you're using the KDE version. It is based on KDE 39. However, one of the things I noticed when it first booted up, it was like the ISO straight from the website comes up and says this version is no longer supported. It expired in May 14th, 2024. But as soon as the box is installed and it comes up, it immediately goes into update mode. It basically gives you a pop-up window and says, do you want to update to the latest version? And you click yes, and then you wait for about an hour because it installs a lot of stuff. I think it was about 3,000 packages it updated.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, but it also has like a whole bunch of third-party repos installed. It installs a bunch of multimedia stuff, third-party codecs. It has RPM Fusion installed by default, OBS Project, Steam, the Steam share thing. Wine is there, and it's all done point and click. I never had to touch a terminal to get any of this stuff done. Their customized KDE Plasma desktop actually looks real good, but of course you can customize it yourself based on how you like to make your KDE look. I didn't put it on bare metal. I don't really have a good handle on performance, but I would assume that it's just as good as in a KDE release. I think for like the long wait times and stuff like that, and maybe just kind of dealing with the filliness of it and getting the strange error about it not being a supported release and stuff like that, I knocked a few points off the readiness score and gave it a 4.0. But I think I'm going to bump that up to 4.2 because honestly, once you get past the first part of it and get the updates installed and reboot, it's really slick. And you've got all that stuff pre-installed, and you can navigate it really easy. The desktop looks very nice. So I'm going to give it a 4.2. I haven't gotten into it enough to really talk in depth about it, but I'll probably pursue it a little bit more, maybe put it on some bare metal and see how it performs, and have a follow-up, I guess, to see if it might be worth someone's time to try it out.
Yeah, I think we had talked about it in the past. I was trying to look through the show notes to see if I could find it, but I can't. But I know for sure I've tried Nobara before because it's the one with has a pretty desktop wallpaper by default, and it installs all the RPM Fusion stuff by default as well. And yeah, the experience on there is generally better than Fedora because it saves you a few extra steps.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I don't remember what we rated, straight up Fedora KDE at, but it's probably about there somewhere.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so we might want to look at that, especially if you're looking into the multimedia side of things, because it's sort of like geared for that. But of course, since it's a Fedora install, it'll be just as good for ham radio stuff. All right, well, that brings us down to our topics end for the evening. So we do have one bit of feedback, and I guess since I just read the last story, I will let Bill read the feedback.
Sure, yeah, this is an email from Tim, KD0UUU. And he said, I had the joy of discovering Elementary OS 7.1 last week and was thinking it could be an excellent Ham Shack OS for the Intel-based laptops. I am sure it supports other processors, but at this time, this is the first distro that works well on my old HP 8440p laptop, and my wife really likes it much better than Win 7, so that's a win. I tried Ubuntu and a couple of others, but the video playback was miserable. Elementary OS is the smoothest running Linux that I have seen. I did have to figure out how to load Wine on it, but after correcting some instructions I found online, I was able to get it to install. I plan to update my Ham Shack OS to run Elementary OS and see how many ham programs I can get to run. I will also attempt to document everything I did from install to up and running, I hope. 73 KD0 UUUU. Tim. And
thanks, Tim.
Yeah, I did respond back to Tim on email and say that I did used to use Elementary a lot. Elementary OS is, of course, based on Ubuntu, so it definitely has the Ubuntu base, and you can get everything that you would find in Ubuntu and Debian for that fact, like stuff like the Ham Radio Pure Blend and everything else. All your favorite debs will run on that. The only thing I ever found with Elementary OS was that they were always slightly behind in the LTS releases. So it'll probably be several months before they get to the 2404 as their base build for Elementary OS. And I found I could mimic the display handling and the windowing handling of Elementary OS quite easily through Mate. So that's kind of what drove me to using Mate, because I could have the latest version of Ubuntu base and use the Elementary OS like display, which I think it's called I want to say Phaeton or something like that, something like PH or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but one of the settings for the display settings in Mate gives you the Elementary OS look and feel. But this is great. I would see no problems running Elementary OS even in its older build for a while, unless you're looking for some really new packages that wouldn't be in the repos.
I don't know if he wants to consider it since he already found something that he likes, but if he's looking for things that have good third-party driver support and Wine and all of that kind of stuff, we just talked about a distribution called Nobara that kind of fixes all that stuff. I don't know if it would work on his laptop particularly, but if he has some time, maybe kick that one around and see how it goes.
Yeah. Elementary OS always had like a real pretty look and feel. Kind of had that, Mac OS Snow Leopard kind of look to it.
Does it have a top bar?
Yeah, it has a top bar and then a dock.
Top bar and dock. Okay, yeah. So it's very, very Mac OS like.
Yeah, I think that was the intention of the developers to kind of have that look and feel. Clean, kind of material like look. Yeah.
All right. Very good. Well, thanks for the feedback, Tim. We appreciate it. Thanks for listening for sure. And speaking of listeners, we have a few new subscribers, supporters, and live participants to mention this time around. We have a new subscriber, Brad. That's all I know about Brad. His name is Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. You know who you are. I really appreciate the financial support. That really helps a lot. No new subscribers or supporters on Facebook or Twitter. On Instagram, we had Genevieve Winters. On Mastodon, we have it at HB9HOX, at DH2AW, at TomPPA, and at DK3IP. No new followers on YouTube. We have several here on Discord. RFB, John, WE1DER, Stitched, Durkey, Wolfgang, DM5WK, Assassin209, and 80586. No new people joined the mailing list, but we also have some folks with us tonight on our odd recording day here in the chat. We had Jared, W7AQB, Ted, WA0EIR, Joel, KC0YEW, and Jill, KE1TTZ. Thanks for joining us for the live show tonight. We really appreciate it. Thanks for giving us a little bit of entertainment and discussion while we record the show. And with that, we've come down to the end of our topics and social media roundup and all of that. So we're going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thanks once again to all of our listeners and supporters. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we hope you'll tune in for the next episode, which will be a weekender. So a little bit of hedonism, a little bit of fun. Hope you learned a little bit, and we hope you have a great week. And we'll let you get back to whatever it is you were doing before you started listening to us. This has been episode number 547 of Linux in the Ham Shack. And for the on assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.